Hi, this is Carrie Cooper for Guitar Centre's Focus on Rock. The theremin, probably one of the most unusual instruments to have entered the musical world in the last 100 years. The only instrument that can be played without actual physical contact, it's probably just about the closest science has come to true telekinetic powers. Originally the product of Soviet government-sponsored research into proximity sensors, this curious and often thought of as avant-garde instrument wound up to be featured on records by the Beach Boys, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, the White Stripes, and even the Pixies. So, it was during the early 20th century when Russian physicist Lev Sergeyevich THEREMIN came to design the theremin. Born in Russia in 1896, in both exciting yet harrowing times, he took a great interest in both music and electronics from an early age. His studies eventually brought him into the Institution of Physics, Technology and Radio Sciences in 1920, and it was around that time that he produced the first prototype of the instrument, a simple oscillator with a foot pedal. By the year 1920, though, it had now evolved into the dual control antenna design we see today and recognise as a theremin. The distance between the player's hands from the antennas determined the pitch and/or the volume of the output. At this time in history, the world was fascinated by newly discovered uses for electricity, and with the apparent magic of its function never seen before, the theremin enthralled music and science lovers alike. Nothing quite screams sci-fi or spooky like the theremin does. Professional thereminist Rob Schwimmer describes it as having sex with ghosts. Sounds a bit strange really, but there are many variables that can affect how it will be played and heard. Schwimmer went on, it's a very hard instrument. There's nothing there to help you. You have no reference. Every other instrument, you have something. And so if you're standing in front of the theremin and your body is a little bit this way or a little bit that, or if you've put on an eighth of a pound, your field will be different. So imagine waking up every morning if you're, say, a violinist and having the neck being shorter or longer. Although not as prevalent as some musical inventions over the years, it certainly did manage to filter its way through to popular rock in later years, most noticeably by the Beach Boys. It was, in fact, a slight modification called the electro-theremin that was developed by trombonist Paul Tanner in the 1950s, which offered greater control of pitch and attack that was used there. When considering the Beach Boys and this sound, Good Vibrations immediately springs to mind. However, Tanner also famously played on tracks I Wasn't Made for These Times and Wild Honey too. Led Zeppelin were another band to harness this sound. Jimmy Page used the sonic wave theremin with the Maestro Echoplex and orange amps and cabinets in between March and May of 1971 and was fond of the double-stacked theremin. For an extremely special example of the collision between classic rock and the Soviet design, check out Jimmy Page's use of the theremin in Chemistry, one of the most experimental and challenging solos on the instrument to date. Prepare for a cold shower afterwards. This is Carrie Cooper for Guitar Centre's Focus on Rock. You can shop for the greatest selection of music gear on earth in-store or at guitarcentre.com.